What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is the Betting Pros preview show, college football preview show. We are live. I'm your host, Scott Bogman. Follow me on the Twitter at Bogman Sports. I'm joined, as always, by Thor Nystrom at ThorKU on the Twitter and Mike Farrell, M Farrell Sports on the Twitter, 2 R's, 2 L's. And today we're going to be talking about the bowls going on between December 27th to December 29th. If you're looking for different bowls that haven't played yet, we do have them on our YouTube channel where we go over them. But today we are going to kick it off with the Military Bowl. But before we get to that, I want to ask these guys, Thor, what has impressed you from what you've seen in the bowl game so far?
Last night, USF impressed me. Just dropped the hammer on Syracuse. That was an interesting game. Their USF's defense was flying around. Syracuse was obviously out their top two quarterbacks, but USF, the defense played better than they had all year, and obviously the offense was humming too. But yeah, I mean, each and every game, it's like a Christmas gift to open up. So I'm excited to talk about 12 more or so today.
Farrell, your thoughts on the bowls that have happened so far?
Yeah, I won pretty big money last night on USF. The Syracuse offense, the gimmicky offense with the tight end throwing the ball around and stuff. So this is the thing with the portal and defections, and I mean, this is the thing. So I think the thing to look at most, and I'm learning more and more as we go through this, is quarterback play. So it's going to be very important. If you don't have quarterbacks, if you're on your third string quarterback and you really don't know what's happening with that third string quarterback, you just don't really know what's going to happen. So you take the other team. So USF, tempo. Congratulations to Golish. I mean, a 1-11 season last year that he inherited this team. He didn't wipe it out 80% like Dion in the portal. Right. And he stuck with his guys, and now 7-6 season. Tremendous job.
Yeah, I mean, just great work by USF. One of those rare bowls, Mike, where maybe location did matter a little bit. South Florida in
Boca it would have been closer had they been in Montana.
Right.
That game was disgusting. His fans were like, Fran Brown was on the sidelines going, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?"
If you guys have not paid attention to us, Mike does not really respect bowl game locations. So, but look, we are going to dive into these bowls. But before we do, I got to tell you guys about the Betting Pros iOS app. Have you tried it yet? We've given the app a fresh makeover to create a better overall experience. New features include a community section, connect with top-rated bettors on hot streaks, and betting experts. Following feed. We have a feed of bets where everyone you follow gets instant notifications when new bets are placed. Enjoy improved live tracking on your bets across your sports books to help you monitor your performance with our bet tracking. Sort your prop bet cheat sheet by over a percentage, under a percentage for the last 15 games to be on the right side of the most recent trends with our prop bet hit rates. To take advantage of these features and more, download the Betting Pros app by visiting bettingpros.com/apps or search Betting Pros in the App Store. All right, gentlemen, let's start with the Military Bowl. It's in Annapolis, Maryland. The line right now is Virginia Tech by 10.5. They are playing Tulane. 44.5 is the total in this game. Tickets and cash seem to be slightly in the favor of Virginia Tech here, Thor. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, this line keeps moving up, and now we've hit the double-digit threshold, and then it's gotten now to 10.5. There's still a couple books where you can get it 9.5, but you have to pay heavy juice. But yeah, I mean the consensus on this thing moved to 10.5. I think that market movement is correct. My line on this game is Virginia Tech minus 13.6. And it all goes to the opt-outs. Virginia Tech had very little, certainly zero that mattered, in my opinion. The one kid who played more than 100 snaps, a tight end, Daquan Wright, he had good broken tackle numbers, but a 17.6% drop rate. They're going to be able to replace him just fine. On the Tulane side, you ready for this? You lose Michael Pratt. You're the face of the franchise, one of the best players in program history. You lose one of his top deep threats in Chris Brazzell, a kid who has gotten all kinds of interest in the portal, going to be a future star. Jaquan Jackson went to the draft. He's out the other one of the other receivers. So the receiving core is decimated. You don't have Pratt. Horton, the backup to Pratt, Kai Horton, he's in the portal. They said he's going to compete for the starting job here with the third stringer, Justin Ibieta, but Horton's gone after this game. So they might just toss in Ibieta because, he hasn't, he's probably going to be there next year. So you have the receivers down. Alex Bogman, their tight end, he entered the portal, but he said he's going to play. But then you have basically the entire edge room for that team is also not going to play in this game. Starting safety, starting cornerback. Tulane's been decimated with the opt-outs, and they obviously got their coaching staff blown up when Willie went to Houston. Willie's taken a whole bunch of the coaches with him. Some of them are going to coach in this game and then leave, but it's a makeshift bull staff that's coaching a team that is entirely different from what we saw the last 2 years, but in particular the regular season. This is not looking good for Tulane. The market is all over this one. They are correct. This line should be around Virginia Tech minus 14. And by the time this game kicks off, I expect it to be.
Farrell, do you agree? Or are you thinking, look, just too much upheaval at Tulane for them to really be competitive here?
I mean, Virginia Tech should never be giving anybody this many points. But to Thor's point, I mean, there's just nobody left at Tulane. The coaching staff's in disarray. Everybody's out. You have to assume that this is going to be a full-strength team that actually had a fairly good season based on expectations at the beginning. A lot of people thought Brent Pry wasn't the guy, and I'm really glad he's turning it around because he's a Frank Beamer disciple, and I kind of want to see Beamer ball, and I want to see them start to recruit well again in the state of Virginia. So they're on the come up. They're almost full strength. Tulane will be okay. Obviously the coaching change and the shifts out, they'll still be one of the better Group of 5 programs, but not in this game. They're going to get drilled. I would lean towards, definitely Virginia Tech. I would also lean towards the over because I think Virginia Tech's going to put up a big number.
All right, let's go over to the Duke's Mayo Bowl from Charlotte, North Carolina. This game is North Carolina versus West Virginia. And West Virginia is minus 6.5 here. 54.5 is a total. Tickets and cash heavily on WVU and the under here, Thor. Obviously, there are a lot of opt-outs for North Carolina to be the underdog in Charlotte. So tell us about this game.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's not another story of opt-outs where one side is more or less intact. West Virginia, they just lost some rotational guys, some backups. It's pretty much it, though. The one guy who matters for West Virginia who's not playing, it's an injury thing. Their starting center, Zach Frazier. He had season-ending surgery, so he's out, and he's a stud. Probably going to be a top 3 center drafted in April. Now he's heading on to his draft process. Wouldn't have played anyway. But outside of that, like I said, more or less intact. Just rotational guys or guys that didn't play at all. North Carolina devastated with a rash of opt-outs here. Biggest one, obviously, Drake May, an enormous loss. 2 of their backup quarterbacks also entered, but they're going to be starting a 4-star freshman, Connor Harrell, is going to be getting his first career start in this game. But then beyond that, you lose your running back, Elijah Green, George Pettaway, running back, sort of third-string guy, but using the rotation a little bit. Tez Walker, another big one. So you lose your number 1 receiver with Drake May as well. Their tight end room got blown up too. Kamari Morales is in the portal, and a couple of the other ones are injured. John Copenhaver and Bryson Nesbitt is, he's like more or less a big slot H-back guy, but if you consider him part of the tight end room or part of the receiving room, he's out too. So the new kid's not going to have many weapons that he can rely on. The defense lost a starting linebacker, also a starting safety, and then one of the used rotational cornerbacks. New center as well here for North Carolina. This is a lot to get through. They only got a good news on a couple guys like Miles Murphy, their interior defensive lineman. He's going to be playing. And then an all ACC defensive end, K'Mon Rucker, going to play too. But again, severe defections, the rest of the positions, and you don't have your best player. My line on this one after it came out in the wash was West Virginia minus 7.6. This line, anything beneath a touchdown, I think that's a buy sign on West Virginia. The other thing I'll say, just sort of contextually, North Carolina is closer to home here. We'll have to see if that leads to more of a more crowd for them. But that's basically the only sort of ancillary factor that you would put in North Carolina's favor in this one. So North Carolina, since October 15th, they only beat one FBS team since October 15th. That was when they were at full strength. Lost to Virginia, lost to Georgia Tech. Then they beat Campbell, an FCS team. And then they beat Duke by 2 points when they were Duke was, had the rash of injuries. And then North Carolina lost their last 2 games at Clemson, at NC State. This team's been circling the drain anyway. West Virginia turned it around under Neil Brown this year when he came into this season on the super duper hot seat, but they had this dream season under him. Now he's safe again. West Virginia, I think, is going to pound North Carolina in this game.
Yeah, Mike, I don't think many people thought that West Virginia would be favored in a bowl game against North Carolina at the end of the season, but that's where we stand. North Carolina not having a great year, and also, like Thor said, circling the drain here. Are you on the West Virginia side as well?
Well, if Drake May were playing, obviously this would be a different situation and story. And, if this were a regular season game, I think North Carolina would win and be favored to do so. With all the opt-outs, I'm going to go with West Virginia. You just go with the stronger roster. You go with the more it means more to them, I think. This was a disappointing year for North Carolina for sure. The younger players aren't going to mail it in. They're going to try. The home field, as I always say, doesn't matter to me. I mean, last night, USF, there were 20,000 people in the stands there. To me, a home field advantage is like 80,000 people.
When you have a crowd. Right. I understand.
Everything. It changes your tempo as a visiting team. It changes your signals. It changes everything. It disrupts you. And these bowl games do not disrupt anybody. So that being said, I don't think there's a home field advantage for UNC here either. The only thing I'm upset about is I think UNC is going to lose this game. I think West Virginia is going to win this game by probably 10 points. So I would go West Virginia to cover. I just want to see Mac Brown get dumped with Mayo. I just want to see that, and I'm not going to be able to see it. Neil Brown with Mayo in his head. I don't give a crap about that, but he's done a good job keeping his job. He's had an okay season. They're going to win this game going away.
All right, let's go to the Holiday Bowl in San Diego, California. It is number 15, Louisville, a 7.5-point favorite against USC. 57.5 is the total in this game. Tickets and cash are slightly on the Louisville side, pretty heavy on the over in this game. But Thor, no Caleb Williams. That's the biggest loss you can possibly have in a bowl season is your starting quarterback, especially one as good as Caleb Williams. So it could be tough sledding for USC here.
That's what I think. Yeah. And I will say these first 3 that we're starting out with, I'm heavy on the favorites on these 3. That will not be the case in the rest of the slate that we're doing. So just spoiler alert on that one. But this game, after the opt-outs, my line came out to Louisville minus 11.4 points. Basically, the Louisville side, the guys they lost that matter, Jawar Jordan and Jamari Thrash are both going to the NFL draft. The rest of it, though, they were pretty intact. Louisville is. They saved themselves from the other opt-outs. The way I thought of it, you can basically wash those 2 guys out with the USC opt-outs on the other side with Marshawn Lloyd and Brendan Rice. And you even toss in Mario Williams and Michael Jackson into that, the receiver for USC. If that's a qualitative wash, then now you have Caleb Williams opting out besides that, which is obviously a devastating hit to USC. They also had several rotational defensive guys that were heavily used out and a starting cornerback as well. So, I mean, you put all that in the wash, it just starts to change the equation on this game. We'll see about Jarrett Kingston if he's going to play in this one. USC has been a starter on the right side of their offensive line. But either way, not looking good for USC. And it's another example of a team that was just sort of limping down the stretch, wants this season to be over. Sort of like North Carolina, their mirror team on the other side of the country with the stud quarterback and whatnot. USC, as Farrell could well tell you, they've been the last 2-3 weeks since the regular season got done. They've been doing awesome, but not on the field, not prepping for this game. What does Lincoln Riley care about? Turning the ship around for next year when you go into the Big Ten. He got his butt kicked this year in the Pac-12. Things are about to get a whole lot harder. They have been remaking not only the entire staff, specifically the defensive staff, they've been remaking the image of the entire roster. They said goodbye to a 5-star kid, Malachi Nelson. They brought in way more of a Big Ten type quarterback in Will Howard, going to be starting next year. The defense, they have been going just ape, here in the last couple of weeks, hiring really good coaches, bringing in portal guys. I'm hearing they are talking to all kinds of high profile defenders. That is where Lincoln Riley's focus is. It's not on this game. And we saw manifestations this fall when it didn't appear that Lincoln was totally locked in. What happened to USC? They're all gunned in this one anyway in terms of talent. Last thing I'll say, Jeff Brom is awesome in bowl games. 6 career ones, 5-1. Jeff Brom is straight up in those. 4-2 against the spread. This is first one at Louisville. He's trying to bring the momentum that they had this year into next year. They're doing pretty good in the portal as well, but Brom ain't blowing up his team like Lincoln Riley is. This one's Louisville all the way.
Yeah, and Mike, I mean, if we remember how USC looked last year in their bowl game when they got stomped by Tulane, I don't think a lot of people have faith in a team losing players and playing well. They were awful last year in the bowl game, so that was the last taste of a bowl that we saw from USC. So, are you on the Louisville side as well?
Yeah, this one's pretty easy to me. I mean, Louisville's going to kill them. USC is in transition, a step back with a 7-5 season. Obviously, finally fired Alex Grinch, bringing in a new defensive staff, as Thor mentioned. Lots of movement in the portal. Recruiting didn't go that well, though. High school recruiting, at least to the level they should be recruiting at. I mean, they had a top 10 class, but he should be keeping 5 stars. They're losing battles left and right to Oregon and other programs when it comes to top recruits. I personally think Lincoln Riley's agent is calling San Diego on a daily, saying, not San Diego anymore, LA. Give me that Chargers job. Give me that Chargers job. I don't think he's going to get it, but I think this guy is like over his head a little bit. He's a sensitive soul. He recruited well at Oklahoma, but he was also handed the keys to a really nice program. Took over from Bob Stoops. He went his own way in LA. NIL money was supposed to be there, supposed to, lure everybody. Hasn't worked out. This team will quit on him, I think, quick in this bowl game. Louisville, on the other hand, is a year ahead of schedule. They weren't expected to be this good this year. Everybody's excited in that program. Everybody's rowing in the right direction, and it's just not the case in LA. So, this game will probably get out of hand maybe in the second quarter. I think Louisville wins this game by 14, 17 points.
All right, let's go to the last game on the 27th, the Texas Bowl from Houston, Texas. Texas A&M is a 1.5 point favorite versus number 20 Oklahoma State in this game. Oklahoma State is the big favorite in money and tickets here, Thor, both playing to the over as well. Obviously, a lot of turmoil at Texas A&M, but big home field advantage for them here, so they are still favored.
Yeah, and this is where we begin to sway, where the first 3, I love the favorites. I think those lines should be a bit higher. Now we're going to get into some games where I believe the wrong team is favored. This one, starting with this one, the wrong team is favored here. Oklahoma State absolutely should be favored. We'll get into the opt-outs in a second, but after those things came out in the wash for me, I got Oklahoma State favored by 7.1 points. Wow. I show an enormous discrepancy here. And, you want to talk about a team devastated by opt-outs and injuries, A&M. Obviously, they fired Jimbo Fisher. They have the interim staff. That's at least been in place. It's the players and the personnel where the issue is here. So A&M, obviously Connor Weigman, their starting quarterback, who was playing really, really good at the beginning of the year. He had a PFF grade over 90. He got knocked out for the year in late September. Max Johnson came in, was decent, and now he is transferred to North Carolina, hoping to become Drake May's successor. But he's gone. So you're down to the third stringer, a kid that we seen, Jalen Henderson, a kid that they had gotten from Fresno State. And this kid barely played at Fresno State, and then it was weird that A&M signed him. This is his 3rd year in college. He's been the guy who's starting the last few games. Weigman's PFF grade was 91.8 when he was playing. Johnson's was 78.2. Henderson, in his 202 snaps, 64.8 PFF grade. There's just not a lot to say for him. I've watched the kid. He should be a 3rd or 4th stringer on a team like this. Maybe they shouldn't have even signed him. So you're hurting there. Then the receiving room, Anais Smith, their stud receiver and punt returner, he's out of this one. Evan Stewart, the 5-star kid, he's gone. Jake Johnson, the brother of Max, was a former really ballyhoo tight end recruit. He's out the door. Starting right tackle is gone. McKinley Jackson, their stud defensive tackle, is gone. The edge next to him, Fidel Diggs, he is gone. The biggest loss on defense was Edgerrin Cooper, who is a game wrecker. That kid's all over the place, one of the highest grades of any defender in the nation. He is gone for the NFL draft. And then the A&M secondary got ripped apart too. Two of the heavily used corner starters, and then a starting safety. That's before you even get into the injuries. I mentioned Weigman. They have another cornerback who is very questionable in this game. A&M, like I said, blown up. On the Oklahoma State side, very little to talk about. They had one of the basically just their rotational receivers, but they weren't good at passing anyway. Ollie Gordon has indicated that he's going to play in this one. They still have Alan Bowman there, and the defense was more or less not touched with opt-outs. They also don't have injuries, so you have a quasi full strength Oklahoma State team who has their entire coaching staff, who is being coached by Mike Gundy, who is one of the best bowl season head coaches that we have in college football. Mike Gundy's 11-6 against the spread in bowl games since 2005. Going up against an interim staff at Texas A&M, a Texas A&M team that doesn't want to be there. The coaches are looking for their next jobs. Most of the players have already entered the portal or declared for the NFL draft. They have the new coaching staff coming in who doesn't care about this game. They're looking for next year. Like I said, everything, when you put it into the wash, Oklahoma State should be favored here, and it shouldn't even be close. Oklahoma State should be about a 7-point favorite. I love Oklahoma State in this one. They're going to win.
Well, we don't need a transition. Did Bogman freeze?
Oh, Bogman, you're on mute.
I hit mute. That's I knew I was going to mess something up on a live show. Here we go. Look, I had a big grin on my face because Thor was talking smack about Texas A&M. So I was enjoying that. Mike, are you also on the Oklahoma State side here?
Yeah, we're probably going to agree on everything today, which sucks. I mean, we don't want
to. These guys do like to fight like cat and dogs usually, but you give yourself a month to look at a game. It's hard not to fall on the same side, right?
I mean, the regular season games on a week-to-week basis, you have to deal with injuries, and that's it. This, you have to deal with opt-outs, and you have to deal with portals, and you have to deal with the NFL draft and new coaches and all this stuff. I mean, it just makes it not easy. I mean, it's not easy money, but it's still pretty obvious, which team, and we've gone through these first few games, which team's intact or more so, which team is missing everybody. And this is another situation where A&M is completely in transition, similar to USC. The guys are from that 2021 class, the record-setting class, which I never thought it was a record-setting class, but it's a good class. But they're leaving. Elko's going to have to build this program up, in his own way. It's going to be less NIL and more development of players. But there's just so many guys that are out that you just can't look at this football team as any favorite. And so Oklahoma State isn't great. They're very predictable offensively, but who's going to stop them? So I'm definitely taking the money line here. I'm going pretty big on it. Oklahoma State's going to win this game outright. This is one of those games where it's like, it's not even really a pick 'em. It's like Oklahoma State's going to win this game, and they could win this game by 10, 14 points. So it's somebody in Vegas may know something, but right now all the data says that A&M is going to get blasted.
All right, let's go over to Thursday, December 28th, the Fenway Bowl, obviously from Boston. Number 24, SMU is a 10-point favorite against Boston College. 49.5 is a total in this one. Cash tickets are slightly on SMU, maybe a little more than slightly, but heavy on the under in this game, Thor. Is that how you see this one playing out as well? Are you following the public here?
Well, luckily, we don't have as much opt-out news to talk about in this one. SMU hasn't had a ton of guys that really mattered. SMU does have the injuries to talk about. Preston Stone, the stud quarterback, was knocked out right before halftime of the regular season finale against Navy. Missed the AAC title game. He's done for the season with that leg injury. At least we got to see Kevin Jennings, the backup, in a proof of concept game against Tulane in that AAC title game. He was okay. Turned the ball over too much. I think he had 3 turnovers in that game, but SMU rolled anyway. So Kevin Jennings having more time to prepare here. You'd think he'd play a little bit better. Jordan Curley is also injured, the wide receiver. We'll see about that. Looks like it's probably going to be Bailey, Smith, and Brinson who are going to be playing if he can in this one. But outside of that, SMU more or less fully intact. Boston College was able to avoid high-profile opt-outs as well. A couple veterans that had fallen out of the rotation, like Pat Garwo, he wants to find more playing time elsewhere. But more or less, outside of just ancillary players, they were fine. their injuries, Ryan O'Keefe, the receiver they had gotten from UCF, and George Takacs, the tight end that they had gotten from Notre Dame, they were both lost to season-ending injuries. They also have a couple guys that were starters in the secondary who got knocked out more towards the end of this season. Elijah Jones, cornerback, and Cole Watson. So a little depreciated there, but like I said, in terms of opt-outs, more or less the same. This is the first game we talked about today where I think the line is spot on. After I baked everything in, I have SMU minus 9.9 points. Ooh. I am right on the margins here. I want the market to push this thing off of 10.
One way or the other.
Way or the other. I mean, that's the only way you really get anything there. As far as the total, Bogman, you said it's 49.5 right now live.
That's what I have. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I actually think there might be just a bit of value on the over. SMU is playing more or less the same kind of offense with Jennings. And Jennings, he has talent. The kid has talent, but he turns the ball over. But in terms of the over, his ability to run the offense the same, but also to turn the ball over, I think both goes to that. And Boston College didn't really lose anyone on their offense. Now, Boston College offense is not great, but they can at least grind out some efficiency with Castellanos, different stuff like that. My total was 55.5. I think there's a little bit more value in that. But yeah, the side, I'm waiting for line movement.
Mike, I want to know how you feel about bowl games at baseball stadiums. Is that something that you enjoy, or is that annoying? Because I've been to many at Chase Field in Phoenix. I like it, but all of the seats are faced the wrong way, just slightly, because they all go towards home plate. What do you think of those?
From a press box perspective, it's awesome.
I'm sure, yeah.
And Fenway is Fenway. It's a little bit. To me, Fenway is different than most of these, baseball stadiums that are hosting games. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference. It's not a home field advantage. Nobody gives a crap about Boston College in Boston. They just won't have any definitive advantage to it. I think it's pretty cool, though. But from a seat perspective, yeah, Fenway's small, and the seats are old and antiquated. I mean, the seats were made, literally, some of them, in the early 1900s when people were average of 165 pounds. Put a guy like me in there, you're like, I can't even fit in the seat. So it's uncomfortable from that perspective. In the game itself, I'm going under. I know Thor said there's value on the over here. I think this is going to be obviously a cold weather game. SMU cares. We saw at the end of the season that they cared. We saw at the end of the season that they were playing pretty well. I'm not saying Boston College doesn't care, but they're just not a very good football team. I think there's going to be a lot of turnovers here, even though both teams are fairly intact. The backup quarterback at SMU turns the ball over a little bit. Castellanos should never throw the football. Just should not throw the football. And they throw the ball 40 freaking times with him for some reason. And so that's at least 2 or 3 interceptions.
Got to get him in rhythm somehow.
Yeah.
Give him 40 out there.
He's dynamic as a runner. I mean, he's really fun to watch. He's like Kyler Murray light. But when he throws the ball, it's just like, oh, man. Like sometimes it's just up for grabs. Sometimes it's to the wrong person. Sometimes they don't really – Tomlin's their best receiver. He can bail him out sometimes, but they don't have the receivers to bail him out. I think BC is actually going to throw the ball quite a bit for some reason with him. I think he's going to turn the ball over. I think SMU is going to turn the ball over. I think it's going to be a sloppy type of game. I'm not saying 7-0 or 7-3, but I'm saying, in the range of 24-20. So I'm taking the under here. I don't like that 10-point. I know, Boston College pretty well. I would lean SMU, but I'm not touching that. Give me the under.
And to Farrell's point, now this game, we're still 6 days away, and it's going to be kicked off in the morning on Thursday. So we're, almost exactly right now. So the forecast can change, right, in the 6 days. But right now, what they're projecting is 14 miles per hour wind with a chance of light rain. I think if you're interested on my side of it, of the over, you can wait on this as we get closer to kick, because I don't think that number is going to go up. Yeah, if the weather holds like this, where that wind is above 12, that's where I don't want a part of the over. But you might get some more line value, and maybe the forecast changes in the days in advance. Then that could make that potentially playable. But if we have the elements, and Farrell mentioned it's this wonky thing in the baseball field, and you got to be playing on the grass. If we're in rain with above 12 mile per hour wind in that one, I want no part of the over. So I just thought I'd mention that.
The rain will be an issue. The funny thing about Fenway, as opposed to a regular stadium, is you've got the Green Monster. You've got one area blocked off from wind.
Right.
entirely. It's not a dome type of situation here, but the wind will be less prohibitive at Fenway than it would at a regular stadium. The rain is a problem, and if it does rain and it's cold, you'd think BC would come out here, try to keep this game close, run the football, but I just know. I just know they're going to throw the ball
Probably
out.
not a lot of great drainage at Fenway as well. I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but it is an old stadium, and when it rains in baseball, they just throw the tarp out. So,
Yeah,
you know,
not a lot of drainage there. The footing's not going to be good, but I think, obviously BC's going to want the grass a little bit higher than normal, just to try to slow down SMU a little bit here. But that, like I said, I mean, the game plan itself, if they come out and run the ball and they run the ball with Castellanos, then I think they can keep this close. And I just think it's going to be a sloppy game. And turnovers usually lead to an over because you got a short field and things like that. But I just have a sense that neither of these teams are going to be very efficient offensively. There could be a lot of punts, missed field goals. That's the other part about baseball stadium. It's really kind of neat because the wind comes in a different area, so your field goal kicking is all messed up. It's kind of fun. Fenway's just Fenway. It's so different, and it's just weird to play a football game there. But no other place are you going to see entire portion of the field blocked off by a giant wall.
right.
It's just kind of neat in that respect. So, like I said, I'm going under. The line's going to change quite a bit when it comes to that number, but I just think this is going to be lower scoring than people think.
All right, let's stick in a baseball stadium and go to the Pinstripe Bowl from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx. Rutgers versus Miami in this game. The line keeps dancing back and forth, but right now I see it as Miami by a point. 40.5 is the total here. But cash and tickets are on Rutgers, Thor. So how do you see this game going, the Pinstripe Bowl?
I see it the same. This is another one where the wrong team is favored. Now, not as much value for me in this one as Oklahoma State and Texas A&M, but value nonetheless. My line on this game is Rutgers -1. I do think that they should be the favorite team. And the market is pushing that thing down. So we'll see by kickoff, but I would expect them to be favored by something like that, a short favorite by the time we get to kickoff. Miami's the team that has the losses here, and they're being coached by a guy, Cristobal, didn't have the best season on the field, and then 2-4-1 against the spread, 7 career bowl games. But the losses here, Tyler Van Dyke, quarterback, you could argue maybe that he's not as big of a loss because this year he struggled, but he's out nonetheless. Colby Young, their speedster wide receiver, is in the portal. Their starting center, who played almost 800 snaps, is in the portal. We got Javion Cohen, the guard, is heading to the NFL draft. So the interior of the offensive line been blown up. And then the big thing on defense for Miami, the one thing that they had that they could really hang their hat on game in and game out, they had awesome safety play. Both those guys are gone for the NFL draft, James Williams and Cameron Kitchens. You take all that out, and then on Rutgers, on their side, very few. The one that matters for Rutgers, Max Melton, their stud cornerback, he went to the NFL draft. But outside of that, they avoided it. They had a couple guys come out and say that they were going to return next season, different stuff like that. They're more or less intact. Rutgers, the team closer to home here, obviously, and they're being coached by a guy who is very good in bowl season, Greg Schiano, 5-2 against the spread, 5-1-1, or I'm sorry, 5-2 straight up, 5-1-1 against the spread in his last 7 bowl games. And Rutgers wants to be here. They're closer to home. They get back into bowl season. They had a strong at least start to the season before November. The schedule caught up to them where they had to play Ohio State, Iowa, Penn State, and then Maryland. Didn't acquit themselves as well in those games, but they started out the season really well. They only had 2 losses up to that point. I think the good times start rolling again. They're going to turn this ship around in this one because Miami, they don't want to be here. Miami had all kinds of struggles once the calendar turned to October. Like I said, they don't want to be here, and they have way more guys who are out of this game. So Rutgers should be favored. I like Rutgers to win this game.
Mike, are you on the same spot here? Got to roll with Rutgers?
Yeah, it's a money line bet. I mean, Rutgers is going to care. It's going to be cold. Miami's not in transition, like Texas A&M and USC. They got the same coach, but he's sloughing off some of what he inherited. So they're active in the portal. Their recruiting is lights out, but this is still not the roster. I mean, Miami's going to be 2025 is going to be Miami's year where they're actually a good team and competing for the ACC. He's still got another year, I think, of average, but he inherited not much. Now, there's questions about whether he's a good coach or not, and his bowl game record and against the spread isn't good. And I don't know if he's a good coach or not. I mean, he was always like, I'm a good coach. All this stuff about me being a recruiter and not being a great coach is garbage. And then he does the Georgia Tech thing, and I'm like, there's just no defending you ever again because it was so dumb. So the narrative here from Oregon fans, of course, is that he can't coach. My issue here is that the team's not going to want to play in this game. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. Yankee Stadium is not Fenway.
A lot of wind going through there.
Yeah, it's much more open. It's been renovated. It's everything is better there when it comes to dealing with the elements. And Miami's not going to want to do that. Rutgers is going to want to do that. They are a run-first football team. They're a physical football team. Shiano's going to want to chop wood, and his guys are going to be excited about this because it's closer to home. So I think Miami's going to get up there and be like, wow, this is cold. This sucks. Second quarter is like, they're not going to give up, but they're going to lose this football game by probably 4 to 7 points.
All right, let's go. Or before we go, let me tell you guys, if you want a chance to win a premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, your place to start betting smarter, not harder, you need to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so you can be alerted with when new episodes are up and claim your prize. Let's go to the Pop-Tarts Bowl, steeped in tradition, of course, from Orlando, Florida, as it always is. Number 18, NC State versus number 25, Kansas State in this game. The line is K-State by 2.5. 47.5 is the total. Tickets of cash heavy on NC State in the over here, Thor. Are you fading the public or are you rolling with them?
I'm with them in supporting NC State. I don't see quite as much value on this one, but I do agree with it. My line on this game is Kansas State -1. NC State didn't have a lot of defections that matter. Like MJ Morris left, but MJ Morris had been outplayed this year by the veteran Brennan Armstrong, just as one example, but a lot of sort of ancillary guys on their side that just don't matter. One guy that we were looking for there, Peyton Wilson, their stud linebacker, who we're going to be talking a lot about this spring because he is a very fun both prospect, but also just watching him on the field, just a warrior. He announced that he's going to go to the NFL, but he is going to play in this game, it appears, at this time, which would be a big coup for NC State. On the other side, K-State, you lose Will Howard, the starting quarterback, was talking about him earlier with regards to USC. They do have the highest ranked recruit, I believe, of all time in program history in Avery Johnson. Mike, that's correct, that Avery Johnson was the highest Kansas State rated recruit ever, right? Pretty sure. That's what I remember.
No.
He wasn't?
No, because Josh Freeman was ranked higher than him. But
close then.
Avery Johnson's overrated by the industry. We don't get any recruiting ratings, star ratings. He's good, but man, they had him way too high. Josh Freeman to me, but yeah, he's a good young quarterback.
And he's the kid who taken over here, whole point. And then DJ Giddens has taken over at running back full time because the guy that Trayshawn Ward, they gotten from FSU, hitting the portal again on this one. Ben Sinnott, the stud, sort of moved tight end, H-back tight endy guy that they move around the rotation. He's off to the NFL draft, not going to play in this game. Kansas State loved to use him, so that one's notable. Those are the ones there. And then also a starting safety hit the portal, Colby Savage. But Cooper Beebe, the stud left guard for Kansas State, is playing. You got to give them that one. It's probably going to be a first-round pick after that. But yeah, coming out in the wash, I think this game should be more to a pick 'em, and it is getting down there. Slightest amount of value on NC State. That's the side that I would back.
I'm going to take, because Bogman's on mute again, isn't he?
I am. God, I can't believe I did it twice. But yeah, Farrell, you're going with NC State as well?
Nope, I'm going to take Kansas State. I like NC State. I like Dave Doran. I think he's a good coach. I think they do a good job of mucking games up and staying close with teams and things like that. But, it's going to catch up to you eventually. They don't impress me offensively. Defensively, yeah, they've got some players. But Kansas State, I think, is Avery Johnson. I just mentioned how overrated he is, but I think he's going to be the better quarterback here. I think he brings a different element to the football game. I think this is a team that has a lot of young players in the depth chart that a lot of people don't know about that are going to have an opportunity to play here. I just feel better about Kansas State in this bowl game. I also lean under. I know the tickets are on over. I think it's going to be sort of like, as I mentioned, NC State wants to make it kind of ugly. This isn't Big Ten West ugly, but I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I think it's going to be a shootout. So I would lean under, but I'm going to take Kansas State in the side. But the most important question is, what is your favorite Pop-Tart? To me, it's cherry with frosting.
Oh, no, it's s'mores, Farrell. This is an easy one.
Well, listen, I love all Pop-Tarts. So
No.
s'mores is disgusting. They're great. But to me, it's the traditional cherry with frosting.
You don't like s'more Pop-Tarts?
No, I said I like all Pop-Tarts. S'mores are great. It's not like I'm saying s'mores suck.
Oh, okay.
S'mores are good, but they're probably 5th or 6th on my list there.
I've never seen Thor more offended, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
he thought you said that s'mores were disgusting.
My system's got s'more Pop-Tarts minus 4.5 against the field.
Name one Pop-Tart that's bad, first of all. It's impossible.
Yeah,
just
it's tough.
Plain one, that those ones are,
delete it.
You throw some butter on it, and it's the best thing ever again. So,
and do you toast your Pop-Tarts, or do you eat them untoasted?
I toast them.
Got to toast.
I'm an untoasted guy, and I can't wait to see the mascot get bitten into, which is going to be the creepiest thing on the planet. That's more intriguing. This is a cool matchup, bowl game wise. I think it's a cool matchup, but I'm intrigued by the Pop-Tart live mascot that's going to be eaten.
Over under on how many bites taken out of the mascot will be great. The Alamo Bowl from San Antonio, Texas, is number 14 Arizona as a 2.5-point favorite against Oklahoma, who is number 12. 62 is the over here. I didn't see any info on the total in terms of public betting, Thor, but everyone seems to be on U of A and Arizona winning this game. How do you see this one playing?
Same. Yeah, same. Arizona, only one defection that matters. Jordan Morgan, their stud left tackle, and he does matter. Probably going to be a day 2 pick in April. But more or less outside of that, it's just like backups and rotational guys, ancillary guys. Very few true defections, though, that mattered outside of Morgan. Oklahoma had a bunch. Dylan Gabriel is the big one. They're going to be starting Jackson Arnold in this one. They lost a couple, both Walker and Major, as part of their running back rotation that they do. Then the offensive line got destroyed, which I think is a big deal. So you lose your starting center, who played 874 snaps, Rame. You lose your both of your tackles, Guyton at 663 snaps, and then the other tackle, he's also out of this one. Guyton and Rame. So they lose 3 starting offensive linemen, and then you're losing a safety as well. Caden Green was the other one, the guard. I'm sorry. So the center guard and their best tackle. That's a tough scene over there. The Sooners had lost Andrew Anthony to injury earlier this season. If you watch the Oklahoma broadcast, like the 3-4 weeks after Anthony went out, every single broadcast team would talk about it because they were getting told this by the Oklahoma coaching staff. We don't have a deep element anymore. So that not only, you weren't disincentivizing the defenses from moving up to take away what Gabriel was good at, which was the efficiency thing, but you also didn't have the ability to take the top off the defense. They were looking, trying to find that guy. They're going to be doing it in the portal, but as far as this season, not so much. Oklahoma did get good news that Danny Stutzman is playing in this game, and Billy Bowman. Both those guys, the safety, both those guys said that they were returning to school. Oklahoma has an entirely different defense when Stutzman is off the field as to when he's on it. But I just think this is too many losses for Oklahoma. So I agree with the market. My line in this game is Arizona -5, and I like the Wildcats to win this one.
Farrell, you the same way? Are you rolling with U of A here?
No, I'm going with Arizona. Too many opt-outs, too many issues, especially that offensive line worries me, man. That's a big issue. I like Jackson Arnold. He was a 5-star quarterback, had him rated ahead of a lot of guys, including Arch Manning in that class. I think he's going to be a good one, but, this is a tough first test for him because he's going in there, and they're missing 3 stud offensive linemen. And so he's not a runner. He can move around, but he's not a guy that's going to be dual threat. So they're going to struggle there. Arizona wants it. Arizona's on that cusp of being, a really, really good football team. They were surprised to me this season. I think Jed Fish has them playing hard. They're not really losing anybody. I'm going to go Arizona here to win this game, probably 4 to 7 points. Man, the Oklahoma fan base is going to be pretty upset about this. You're going to hear things about Brent Venables after this, even though they had a pretty good year and they bounced back from last season. That is a fan base that is just Texas A&M. I think is the most vulgar fan base I've ever dealt with. Oklahoma might be the nastiest. Like, Caden Green leaves and goes to Missouri. First of all, the thought was Dylan Gabriel was luring him to Oregon. So Dylan Gabriel, who was a great quarterback for them, got all this hate from the Oklahoma fan base. Absolutely hated him. So much vitriol. And then the kid ends up going to Missouri. And then the Oklahoma fans start going on his dad's business, his small business, and giving him 1-star ratings.
Oh, my
All
Lord.
the Oklahoma fans did it. So his ratings of his business were just shot the tank because the kid left.
Good Lord.
I mean, and this is the team that booed Spencer Rattler for Caleb Williams. Then Caleb Williams came in and they loved him to death, except he had one bad game. They booed him, wanted Rattler back in. I mean, they're gonna lose this football game, and they're gonna lose their minds as they head into the SEC. So that's what I'm predicting.
And
What
Jeff Lebby gone too,
guys.
right, to Mississippi State.
Coordinators go on. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of, they're okay. The recruiting was very good. The high school recruiting is very good. They'll be okay in the portal. Arnold's going to be a better quarterback in the end than Dylan Gabriel and all that. But Texas is good. Oklahoma fans don't like that. They're moving the SEC. They've got all this turmoil and tumult. And Brent Venables, like I said, I mean, when he beat Texas, he was it. We got our guy. Lincoln Riley stinks. Brent Venables is still a better solution than Lincoln Riley as of this point. But this fan base is going to lose their mind after they lose this football game.
Yeah, I tell you, I've got Thor saying how Texas A&M is overrated and not going to win their bowl game. I've got Mike, talking about how bad the Oklahoma fans are. This is a great day for me, you guys. I'm enjoying this. One of my favorite lives ever.
So bad. They're not the worst, but they're
yeah. I understand, but they're bad. I like that. Let's go to Friday, December 29th, where we kick it off with the Gator Bowl in Jacksonville, Florida. Number 22, Clemson, a 4.5-point favorite against Kentucky. 46.5 is a total in this game. Heavy tickets and cash on Kentucky and the over here. Thor, is that how you see this game playing?
Yes, on both accounts. I didn't know that, but yeah, that's interesting. The market is, I mean, they've been on Kentucky to this point. It's going to become all the more so. This is the second biggest discrepancy of these group of games that I have in terms of my system. After the opt-outs, I'm showing Kentucky should be favored in this game by 2.2 points, or getting closer to 3. Whereas in the market right now, Clemson's still up there by around 6, whatever, and then. I'm showing dang near 12 points of line value on the over as well for reasons that I'll get into in a second. But yeah, for me, this is Kentucky and the over. Clemson, they lose Bo Collins. He's a wide receiver too. Never really broke out like they wanted him to. Now he's going to Notre Dame, who had a whole bunch of receivers that didn't break out that they wanted to. So they, ushered them out the door. We'll see if he can finally get there next year working with Riley Leonard. But it does hurt because Clemson doesn't have a lot of aerial weapons, right? And so, losing a guy like that, at least you could rely on him to somewhat of a degree, even though he is inconsistent. He would give you the big plays every now and again. They also lost Clemson offensive lineman. They use Mitchell Mays. Stud defensive tackle Rook Aquaro is going to the NFL draft. So is Jeremiah Trotter, going to be one of the top linebackers who take it in the draft. Nate Wiggins is a first-round guy all the way. Nate Wiggins was the guy who chased down the UNC running back from behind and slapped the ball out at like the 1-inch line.
Yeah,
and that
Don BB play.
Crazy burner, Nate Wiggins. I can't wait to watch that kid run in Indianapolis. Get your popcorn ready for that. Just, world-class speed. And then behind him, Andrew Mbuka, the starting safety, Bogman, you'll love where he's going. He is returning home to Austin, Texas, where he hails from, to try to chase a national championship with next year's Longhorns, who are going to be stacked. Clemson lost so much. All 3 levels of the defense, they had enormous defections. The secondary is where the real problem is. Let me read to you guys a quote that Dabo Swinney said about a week ago. The safety room loses Makaba, like I said, he's going to Texas, but the cornerback room is where the real problem is, which it doesn't help that the stud behind them is gone as well. This is what Dabo Swinney said. We have no corners. I am drafting guys to practice at cornerback. So they had, because they also have an injury, this Pride kid, one of their corners, is down. So the cornerbacks for this game for Clemson, it's going to be Avion Terrell, Shelton Lewis, Miles Oliver. Not great, but because of this situation, Clemson's been playing practicing players at other positions at cornerback. A running back, Peyton Strecco, they were practicing at cornerback during bowl practices, and also a wide receiver, Hamp Green, was practicing at cornerback. So you might see multiple guys back there, especially depending on the way this game flow goes, or God forbid, Clemson suffers any injuries in the cornerback room. This thing could get hairy really, really quickly. Clemson also has a couple other guys we're still waiting on who are enormous in terms of their opt-outs. If they do or not, Tyler Davis and Barrett Carter, the defensive tackle and the linebacker, we're still waiting on that. Will Shipley is going to play, and obviously Klubnik is too. But when you're losing all that stuff, you have to downgrade them significantly. Kentucky doesn't have those things. Kentucky, like the Wade twins left, but one of them didn't play any snaps. The quarterback didn't matter for this thing. The edge played 371. He was one of the rotational guys. That was the most snaps they lost to anyone in terms of an opt-out. They remained intact. Ray Davis is going to play in this game. Leary's going to play in this game. So you have more or less a full-strength Kentucky going up against a Clemson team that's severely depreciated and has cluster defections at a specific spot that Kentucky should be able to attack. It's hard to deal with Davis anyway, but once Davis gets going, you have to move guys up to try to stop him. Leary then will be picking on this secondary that could be brutal out there. Kentucky should be favored in this game. They will be closer to that by kickoff. I think this thing's going to come beneath 3 all over Kentucky in this game.
I can just see Clemson having like 3 interceptions and everybody calling Dabo a genius because he put wide receivers over there, Mike. But do you see this game playing out in Kentucky's favor like Thor does?
Nope. How dare you?
There we go. Disagreement. I like it.
Dare you? Clemson has been playing very well down the stretch. Klubnik has been playing better. He's still not great. He's certainly not as good. I had him as a 5-star kid. He hasn't played that way yet. I think he's going to have a big year next year, but because they're starting to address some of the receiver issues and all that stuff. I know they're missing players. I know they got opt-outs. I know the secondary is depleted. But Kentucky is not very good. They're just not. And I don't trust Devin Leary anymore. So the advantage that they're going to have, they're going to put an extra guy in the box to try to keep Davis in check. That's just natural. I just don't think Devin Leary can beat him. And I like Liam Cohen as an offensive coordinator. I like the fact that they got the Vanderriff kid in the portal. I think he's going to be okay. Not great, but he's going to be okay. But Devin Leary has been a massive disappointment to me. Kentucky was a massive disappointment this year. Let's not forget that Stoops kind of half took the Texas A&M job. So he's trying to get his team back focused. I just think Clemson, whatever Dabo did at the middle of that season, whether it was a plant caller about, this, that, and the other, Larry from Spartanburg, whatever he did, whatever he talked to his team about, they have been a different football team at the end of this season. I think that's going to continue into the bowl game. That being said, Dabo, get in the portal. What are you doing? This is stupid. You still have 0 commitments in the portal, and the reason we're talking about all this depth loss is because you lose a couple guys that are key, and you don't have anybody depth-wise to replace them because you're just focusing 100% on high school recruiting. Deion Sanders took 5 kids in the early signing period in high school. That's dumb. Taking 0 in the portal, that's dumb too. Wake up, Dabo, but how dare you, Thor? This is a 2-time national coach who knows what he's doing, and he's gonna put that secondary together, and Clemson's going to win this football game. They're going to cover the 4.5. I think it's going to be a touchdown.
All right. I like a little disagreement. Let's go to the Sun Bowl from El Paso, Texas. Number 19, Oregon State versus number 16, Notre Dame, exactly where they want to be in El Paso. Tickets and cash are slightly on Notre Dame, who's a 6-point favorite. 41.5 is the total. Most people are on the under, it seems, in this game, Thor. A lot of transfers out, a lot of NFL talent in this game as well that is not going to play because it's the Sun Bowl. So your thoughts, how is this game going to play out with all these opt-outs?
Yeah, we got the opt-out bowl here. On Notre Dame side, Sam Hartman is out the door for the NFL draft. Audric Estime, their stud running backs out the door for the NFL draft. The entire wide receiver room got blown up, starting with the firing of Chauncey Stuckey, the wide receiver coach. And then, they had 4 guys that they used all out the door. I mentioned that Bull Collins going to be going there. They signed some other receivers as well. Totally remaking that. Holden Stoss, the tight end who had come in after Mitchell Evans had gone down for the year, he's not going to be playing in this one either. So they're way down the depth chart on tight end. Then the offensive line, which was awesome, that gets blown up. Starting center out the door for the NFL draft. Starting right tackle. That was a surprising one. This Blake Fisher probably should have returned to play left tackle next year, but he's out the door. And then Joe Alt, the guy he could have taken over for next year, is out the door. Joe Alt's going to go in the top half of the first round. So, the whole offensive line gets blown up. Then you had multiple defenders as well. Maris Lafu, linebacker, out the door, a starter. Cam Hart was one of the best cover corners in the FBS this year. He is out the door as well, an All-American there. And then one of the safeties, Henderson, is out the door as well. So they lose a ton. Oregon State does, they have their own issues with this. DJ Uagalele is out the door. Damian transferring. Damian Martinez, he actually, the running back who they use a ton, very good player. He wanted to play, but he got arrested in late November, and then they reinstated him from the team. They had suspended him. They reinstated him, but have already said he's not going to play in this game because he missed too many bowl practices. So you lose those guys. A starting receiver, Gold, is out for them. Tight end Vealing is out, hitting the portal. One of their stud tackles who's going to go right around where Alt does. This kid played right tackle, but Fuaga is out as well. And then a starting linebacker and a starting safety. But, you have to put and then, of course, Jonathan Smith, right? And the coaching staff got blown up. But they did keep continuity in terms of elevating a guy who was already on the staff, who's going to be keeping some of those guys. I put everything into the wash. I think this line is wrong. Notre Dame being favored by up near a touchdown. With all those losses, they're playing the Steve Angeli kid. We haven't seen much of him at quarterback. The running back, like I said, the receiver is way down on the depth chart on that. I actually like the running back that Notre Dame is going to be using. Was it Love? His per snap numbers were pretty good. I might be going over on his prop, but the rest of the thing, you're taking enormous downgrades. I got this line at Notre Dame minus 1.2. I think there's a lot of value on Oregon State. My system also has the total 10 points above where Vegas does. You have to remember, you focus on the offensive opt-outs, but on defense, there was a whole bunch of opt-outs as well. Oregon State at least will be starting a guy who has starting experience at quarterback in Gall Branson. The other running back, Fenwick, is pretty good too. So the one I really love is Oregon State, but I would also lean over on this one.
Mike, where are you at in the Sun Bowl? Are you on the Oregon State or Notre Dame side?
Yeah, it's Oregon State all the way. I mean, the depth chart at Notre Dame is empty. It's blank. I mean, they lost so many guys at so many positions that there's certain positions here where they're just playing all new guys or all new guys except for one or two. Angeli's not very good, and he's not going to be good without receivers. So to me, this is a big time, Oregon State. They're going to care about this game a little bit more. Notre Dame does not want to be in El Paso, as you mentioned. It's a big disappointment for them that this season finished the way they did. I mean, it's still okay, 9-win season, but they're not going to care about this game. Oregon State's going to actually give an effort here. They're going to probably win the football game. I think this is a potential money line, but if you're going to give me 6 points, I'm taking Oregon State all the way.
All right, let's go to the Liberty Bowl from Memphis, Tennessee. It is Memphis versus Iowa State. The line that I saw was Iowa State by 9.5, 57.5 is the total in this one. We're heavy on Iowa State in the over in terms of public betting here. Thor, is that where you're going in this one?
I'm pretty close to the margins on this one in terms of, when it came out to the wash where we're at with the Vegas lines. Not as many opt-outs to talk about, fortunately. I hate talking about all the opt-outs and all these games. Focusing on that, I'd rather focus on who's on the field. But this game doesn't have as many big ones. Iowa State lost 2 of their rotational backs, and they were guys that were 1 and 2 on the team and snaps, 4 halfback snaps, Cartavius Norton and Eli Sanders. I would argue, though, even though those are like the 2, biggest opt-outs they had in terms of snap count and stuff like that, that they don't really matter that much because the best running back on Iowa State's roster is not either of those 2 guys. It's Abu Sama, who at the end of the season started playing a whole lot more. He deserved more usage. He should have gotten it. And now they started playing him near the end of the year, like a lot more of those last couple of games. He should be the bell cow, and he's going to be in this game. That Sama kid, 84.6 PFF grade when he was in there. But get this. This was an eye-opening stat. That kid, the Sama kid, averaged 7.3 yards after contact per rushing attempt. The kid's a broken tackle machine. We just, they just didn't start using him till the end of the season, whatever. Only at 72 carries on the season, was breaking dang near one every single. That might be a slight exaggeration, but he just fights people off of him. Matt Campbell is so good at finding those running backs that break tackles. Going back years and years and years, Montgomery was one of my favorite guys. Obviously, Kareem Hunt, you go back to Toledo. This Sama kid is following in the line of those guys. He gets to take over here. None of the other Iowa State, they don't matter. It's just a bunch of backups. On the Memphis side, you lose their starting right guard, Davion Carter. You lose the starting left tackle, McCallum Pounders. The Carter kid, the right guard, was Memphis's best offensive lineman. So they'll have to plug in a guy who's going to be an obvious downgrade. The Pounders kid, his backup was actually, like you look at the grading and stuff, it was more or less a wash. The other kid had like 250 snaps. Pounders was the good pass blocker. The other kid, who is a bad run blocker, the backup who's coming in is a good run blocker who stinks in pass blocking. So, watch the blind side if you're Seth Hennigan in this one. Not as many defections here that matter. You do have to ding Memphis for losing the two starting offensive linemen. When it came out in the wash for me, I got Iowa State minus 9.8. I would probably lean towards Iowa State just slightly here, but we are right on the margins with the total as well. I am 3-4 points above where we are in Vegas right now in terms of that. So maybe lean towards the over in this one. Those would be my things in this one, but not as confident in this one as some of these other games we've been talking about.
Mike, do you have a good lean in the Liberty Bowl here? Do you like Memphis or Iowa State?
I'm going to go under. I don't like this side at all. I mean, Iowa State, obviously, from where they were at the beginning of the season to where they finished, a different football team. Matt Campbell done an amazing job as usual. I mean, I started to doubt him, started to think he was maybe on some sort of warm seat, and then he comes around and figures it out again. So they're the better football team. They're going to win the game. I just don't know if they're going to win by 9.5 points. I do lean under here. I know Iowa State at the beginning of the season offensively was pretty inept, and they had to win those typical games that they always win, the rock fight type of games. And they came on and were a better offensive team. Memphis is a solid offensive team. I mean, Hennigan threw for 4 touchdowns in the finale. They started putting up more points because they weren't very good at the beginning of the season either, to me. But overall, I'm going under here. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than people think. 57.5 is too high. I know Thor's number is a little higher than that, but I'm feeling that it's going to be closer to 50 points here. So go under.
And Matt Campbell's about to be able to say that he coached NFL MVP in Brock Purdy. So
how dare you?
How dare me? How dare me? What? Win money?
Damn it! Actually, the other guy, Lamar Jackson, should be the MVP too.
Agreed.
He doesn't have the weapons that Brock Purdy has. I'm not a big Purdy guy. I think he's a little.
Yeah, but Purdy's the easy story too, Mike. That's the in the NFL draft advertise. What is better advertising for the draft than saying any player can win the MVP, Mr. Irrelevant?
But any player should also include non-quarterbacks. He's a smug.
I agree.
I don't really like him that much. McCaffrey carries that freaking football team. To me, when he was out, Brock Purdy didn't look as good, and I don't know. Lamar Jackson, MVP.
Well, I'm a Steelers fan too, so I don't know. I'm also a huge Lamar fan, and I was mad. Remember, the Steelers took Terrell Edmonds and could have had Lamar Jackson. So at least I'm not still bitter about it. So
Lamar was sort of a late flyer pick. It's a good job by the Ravens to trade up and get him late, but he wasn't a top 15, top 20.
He should have gone. I thought that's what the Saints were trading for. I thought they were taking. They took Marcus Davenport there from UTSA.
They wanted him to work out as a wide receiver. Remember, he can't play quarterback.
Oh yeah, those people. Yikes. Last game up for us today: Cotton Bowl in Dallas, Texas. Number 9 Missouri as a 1-point favorite versus number 7 Ohio State. 48.5 is the total on this one. Tickets of cash heavy on Missouri in the over in this game. Thor, obviously, Ohio State has a lot of transfers out, but some guys are sticking around to play. So let us know, how is this game going to play out?
My read on this game is more about projected opt-outs than what we have right now. We don't have the full list. Some of the Ohio State guys have come out and stated publicly that they're going to play. A big handful of ones have not announced yet. Well, I'll get into that in a second. What do we know at this point? We know Kyle McCord is not going to be starting. So Devin Brown's going to be starting in this one. Devin Brown was former 5-star, only 72 snaps though this year.
He wasn't a 5-star. Ugh, don't get me going. These rankings suck. Not a 5-star.
Well, not to you, Farrell. I'm just talking in general. 72 snaps for Brown this year. He was in the rotation beginning of the year. Then he gets injured. Now he's going to be back, obviously, because McCord is out for this one. Chip Trayanum, backup running back. He's out. Evan Pryor, he was injured for most of the year. Don't really matter. But Mayan Williams is headed to the NFL draft as well. One of the big ones we're waiting on is Travion Henderson. To play, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? If he doesn't, they are decimated. I mean, they're already decimated at running back.
Or do you have like a general sense of, if I don't know if a guy's going to play, I just kind of think that he's not going, like, I feel like Travion Henderson's not going to play, right? Do you just take that and go, since I don't think he is, I'm probably not. I know you can't bake it into your system, but is that something that you just say, look, if it's on the borderline these days, these guys probably aren't playing?
Yeah, in terms of the bet, yeah, trying to get ahead of the line movement. Yeah. But yeah, in my system, I can only bake in once they go out or whatever. So I mean, but yeah, it's something to mention here because if Henderson goes down, they are in a real bet, or if he opts out before the game, they're in a real bet, or if he gets injured during it. Sure. But they're in a bad spot either way. And this game, of course, how much does it really matter? You're not in the playoff. You want to be in the playoff. So we'll have to see with regards to him. The receiving corps, we have big ones there as well that we're waiting on. Marvin Harrison Jr., he has been eerily quiet during this. Julian Fleming, the wide receiver 3, he is confirmed to be out. He's Penn State, maybe, I think is what I had heard with regards to him. The defense right now is intact. And I should mention Egbuka is playing in this game as well. He was one of the ones that came out. But as far as the potential opt-outs, you have let me start with the guys that are going to play. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver 2, is going to play. Denzel Burke, the stud cornerback who is an All-American, they are both going to play. You have Tyleik Williams, All-American defensive tackle for Ohio State, is going to play. They're starting offensive guard Donovan Jackson. He also came out along with Jordan Hancock and Jack Sawyer. Those are the guys who have said they're going to play. Like I said, still waiting on Henderson. Ohio State, I thought it was interesting. They sent 6 guys to the media on December 12th. And, they went out there and were like, oh, we're going to play. We're going to play. We're going to play. We're going to play. These, important guys. But there was guys that were not there Henderson was not there to announce that. Harrison was not there to announce that. Cade Stover, the stud tight end who's going to get drafted, he wasn't there. Linebacker Tommy Eichenberg, defensive tackle Michael Hall. The true stud, JT Tuamalo, the defensive end edge guy, was not there. Josh Proctor, Lathan Ransom. So you have a whole bunch of guys who haven't stated, and it's like, well, if you were going to play, why weren't you at that media thing? So yeah, I mean, to your question before, Bogman, you have to think about it a bit when you're doing the handicap of you're projecting it. Right. But yeah, as far as my system, I'm not baking it in. The Missouri doesn't have really any that mattered at all opt-outs. They have injuries. Enos Rakestraw matters. He's questionable with a groin injury here. Tyron Hopper, second team SEC linebacker. He's questionable with an ankle injury. Both those guys are going to be going to the NFL draft. So you wonder, will they play in this one or not? Eli Drinkowitz has said that they are confident that Hopper is going to play. Rakestraw will have to see. He didn't sound as confident on that one, so he might be out. But more or less, Missouri, pretty close to full strength in this one. Ohio State's already had some losses. I'm anticipating they have more. Right this second, I have this line at Missouri minus a half of a point. And in Vegas, it's Missouri -1. But we know we're not getting opt-outs on the Missouri side. Like, we just know that. But Drinkowitz said multiple weeks ago, like, we're all playing, or a week ago, whatever it was. And then on the Ohio State side, you're still waiting on the statuses of these guys, where if they were going to play, why didn't they go and tell the media at that time with the other guys? I think those guys were sent out there to try to sort of peer pressure some of these other guys into playing.
What was this event? I'm sorry, that the
they sent 6 guys out to talk to the media to say, like, oh, we're not opting out, we're playing in this game and yada yada. But that was cool. But like, it's like, yeah, you have a whole bunch of
what about the good guys? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, so right this second, I think, a short story long, I think this line is fair in this moment. Okay. But I anticipate that Ohio State is going to have several more losses that would make this line, for me, closer to Missouri -3, 4, maybe 7, depending on the guys that we have. So I'm on Missouri in this one.
I mean, Mike, people say they hate the transfer portal and the way the game is changing, but there's not much better than a conspiracy theory tinfoil hat moment like Thor just had about who is going to play in this game and who isn't. I don't know. I think that's kind of fun. It's also goofy, But your thoughts in the Cotton Bowl? Do you like Ohio State or Missouri?
Well, a lot of that's NFL draft stuff too. I mean,
Of course,
I mean,
yeah.
not going to play. I could just tell you. I'm not 100% sure. I don't have sources on this. I just know from what I know about kids, whether they're in it for themselves or dogs or, whatever, he's going to not play. He's not going to getting injured. He already, his freshman year was amazing. Then he had the injury, it set him back NFL draft wise, all this good stuff. He's not going to play. That's my take. Marvin Harrison Jr. could play because he's just different. He's a different
He's
cat.
talked about coming back maybe.
He should never play. He should not play in this football game. What did we learn from Jalen Smith at Notre Dame against Ohio State years ago?
And what was the tight end from Michigan in the Orange Bowl too?
Yeah, should not play, but he might. So it's weird. It's hard to figure out Ohio State. I do like the over here. I don't like the side. I'm leaning Missouri. I think they want it more. I think Ohio State's a little bit of transition here as well. New quarterback. A lot of guys hit the portal. Not important guys, but a lot of guys hit the portal. I think Ryan Day is going to remake this team into a little bit of a more physical football team. I think he realizes he needs to do that. So there's a little bit of a rebake here in Ohio State. I think is going to be different. Their defense was great this season. We don't know if all these guys are going to play or not, but I think that's why the number is low at 48.5 because of how good their defense is. But I don't think it's going to be full strength against Missouri. Missouri can put up points. They can run. They can pass. I think Ohio State will be able to put up points as well. So I look for this to be a high-scoring game. 48.5 is too low for me. I'm going over. If I had the lean side, it would be Missouri.
All right. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this episode of the Betting Pros College Football Preview Show. Remember, you can follow us all on Twitter at Bogman Sports for myself, at Thor KU for Thor, and M Farrell Sports for Mike. 2 R's, 2 L's. And we will see you guys next time. Take it easy, everybody.